Oh gosh. Whoops.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, you're all good.
Yeah, like I said, they can edit out this first, minute or so. Okay. Kate, I'm gonna try to do the live stream thing. Okay. I got that unsupported thing, but I feel like that's what happened before, so they'll let me know. Okay, sweet. Adriana just said that we're live. So welcome everybody to our panel. This panel is about navigating employment. So we have several individuals here who are gonna present about different services and issues related to employment, and hopefully answer some questions and help everyone have a better sense of how you can get support. So first, I'm gonna hand things off to Heather Reed, who's a member of our board at the Autism Society of Texas, and is gonna speak about things from an HR perspective.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you everyone for joining, and happy to be here. Again, my name is Heather Reed. In my day job, I work for PayPal. I'm an HR executive there. And in my spare time, I am on the board for the Autism Society of Texas. And today I'm going to take you through just a couple of things to think about when you are applying for jobs or seeking employment. And so the first thing that I wanted to talk about is really making sure that, and oh, by the way, I'm at the airport. I'm boarding a flight in an hour, so I apologize for any background noise. So with that, the first thing that I wanted to talk to everyone about today is the first thing you want to do is research your prospective employer. And why that's important, especially when we're talking about this topic, is you want to look for things that they have done or shared in the news, on their career sites, things like that talk about diversity commitments, looking for inclusive language, looking for the availability of employee resource groups. And those things are important because that will give you an indicator that this employer gets it. And it's always important to make sure that you are interviewing the employer as much as they are interviewing you. And you want to make sure that you're picking a great culture fit for yourself and for what you need. So first and foremost, and this is advice I give to everyone, by the way, just make sure that you're researching your prospective employer and getting to know them before you decide if this is a place where you want to apply for work. The next thing that I would do is when I am in the actual job posting itself and you're looking up, for accommodation support, typically if you scroll to the bottom of the job posting itself, you will typically see words like accommodations or support. And that's where you can most of the time click on a link or an email where you can email a representative at the company that can help you support the process for which you are applying. So, reach out to those resources and let them know what support you need to apply for that job posting. The other thing I would do is look at the career site for more information on accommodations. A lot of employers will be very outright in how they advertise what they're willing to offer or what they do offer. And so their career site, for example, we have inclusive hiring at PayPal. And so that would be a place on our career site where potential candidates can find support and get more information about the environment at our company. You want to also ask your recruiter directly. So at the time that you apply, you are, in a pool with every other applicant, but at some point they're going to determine that you are a qualified candidate and they're going to reach out to you for employment. And that recruiter would be your conduit into the company, whereby you could, without self-IDing, you could just simply ask a question: does your company offer accommodations if I needed one? And that's just simply to say, I'm not self-IDing with anything at this point, but I'm just curious to know if I needed an accommodation, is this a company that would be willing to support me in that? The other thing that I would advise is, we get often asked in HR as well, as I know there was a question that Dana received for today's session about what accommodations are available. Well, I would ask that question back to all of you and to think about, being very thoughtful in what you need, what distracts you during the day, what frustrates you in your work, and what type of accommodation might help with that. So, for example, we have an open office space that there's a lot of noise, very similar to the airport situation that I'm in right now, and asking for noise canceling earbuds would be an accommodation that we would be able to supply so that someone in an open environment like this would be able to concentrate on the work at hand. So my point here is not every person is created the same, and so not every accommodation is going to be the same. So I would ask you to be very thoughtful about what you need and be patient with the employer, because again, it's not just here's a menu of things that we offer. We want to make sure that we're being very intentional about what you need. There was a question, I think, coming in about self-ID. And so, there are benefits to self-identification. I would recommend that you do that after the recruiter calls you, because that's at the point where you're already, based on your resume and your qualifications, you are deemed a candidate for employment. And so anytime after that you feel that you want to self-ID, you can do that. A lot of employers also ask that in onboarding paperwork. And the benefit for you is to be able to let the employer know what support you will need to be your authentic and very best self in the workplace. So there's benefits to the employee, and then there's also benefits to the employer to be able to collect that data to know what kind of programming we need to provide. So self-ID, I would say, later in the process. And then some best practices in talking with some of our inclusive recruiters that are focused on this topic at work. Some of the things that they see are when an interview is scheduled, the candidate will ask the recruiter, hey, would you mind giving a heads up to the interview panel that I stutter and I might, show up that way? And so would you just be open to giving them a heads up that might be something that they notice when they're talking to me later? So letting them know in advance, this is how I might show up in an interview. And so I just want to, give a heads up and let everyone know how best to support me. The recruiter that I spoke to also said that she has received personalized emails as well. Dear recruiting team, here are some of the things that I will need your support with while I'm interviewing, and this is how I may show up, and this is the support that I could really use from you. So this is all, of course, based on your own comfort level. And self-ID, it's only if you're comfortable. It is certainly not a requirement. You can go through your entire employee life cycle without ever self-identifying. So again, I hope these are, some very helpful tips. And I think we'll get to questions later in the session, but I wanted to share these with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heather, for getting us started. Now I'll pass it over to Farah, who's going to talk a little bit about vocational rehabilitation.
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm with Goodwill Central Texas, and I was the student hireability navigator 2 days ago. Now I'm the program services supervisor for Project Search. And I'm going to talk to you briefly about Texas Workforce Commission Transition Vocational Rehabilitation Services. I'm going to share my screen real quick. And let me know if you see it. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So what is transition? Real quick, it's the process that helps prepare the students between the ages of 14 to 22 to move from the school life to employment life to what's after school life, whether college, employment, or whatever they're looking for. The transition planning helps minimize barriers that the students could encounter in the transition phase from school to the working world. And these services, who are the people that are eligible for these services? So They have a physical and or mental condition that affects their ability to work. They need vocational rehabilitation services to help the students get and or keep a job or be able to get and keep a job after receiving services. So the goal of transition is, as mentioned, to identify and begin working with the students before they graduate. So to help them and provide them with these services before they graduate, so they don't face any delay when they're trying to take their employment path or leave school after school. So we provide pre-employment training services or pre-employment transition services. These include counseling, guidance, job coaching, supported employment, paid or volunteer work experience, vocational and academic training, psychological counseling, temporary job placement, career exploration, and in some cases, medical services. So these one are the tricky ones that depends on the income of the family and many other factors. So the main thing that we do is pre-employment transition services. We call them pre-ETS. So what are these? These are counseling and on post-secondary opportunities. So what is there for them after school? Work readiness training. So just to make sure that they're ready to work, getting the independent living and social skills, volunteering, personal social adjustment training, so on and so forth. Work-based learning. So they go to the work site, they work there, they learn the skills on site, and training in self-advocacy. So they get the peer mentoring, they get self-determination training, life skills training, vocational academic training curriculum. They even can join camps. So it depends. All of these services depends on the interest and the skill of the person, of the individual. Career exploration. So looking for the job that they're interested in. So this is about their interests and their skills and their goals. So it's all shaped to towards that goal. And of course, work readiness training. So what do these look like? So we focus on career paths, positive work habits, and supports and accommodations. So starting with career paths, we start with online exploration. We use multiple platforms to look for jobs, see what they're most interested in, to learn more about the jobs, and see what they're looking for. We do informational and interview skills. So they actually meet with people one-on-one. They meet with the supervisors. They meet with other employees. So they learn how it is, how the job is in real life. We have some clients that were interested, for example, in the past and working at GameStop, and they were really excited because it was all about video games. And once they went there in person and they saw how it was, they were no longer interested in it, and we started looking for other jobs. And of course, spending time working with actual employees to get the real life experience. So GameStop example. Also, we do the internships. We have different locations, different places. So as mentioned, everything depends on the interest and the skill of the individual. We work with hospitals, hotels, veterinary clinics, a lot of places. We also have supports and accommodate. We focus on building positive work habits, which is communication skills, interpersonal skills, and other soft skills. I'm going to just skip this real quick due to the time constraint with this presentation. So we focus on leadership, teamwork, work ethics, positive attitudes. And of course, we focus on supports and accommodations. So they get job coaching. It could be one-on-one. It could be another issue, but it depends on the needs and the skills of the individual. We also have the organization. They can also get the support they need at the job, for example, getting a checklist to be able to do the job. And also we support the employer to buy adaptive equipment to help the employee with certain tasks. This is also a more in-depth conversation, so there are more details about this, but they get the help that they need. So some examples of the programs and services that we have job coaching, we have vocational adjustment training, we have work experience coaching, supported employment, another program called Project Search, which is a 9-month program, so it's throughout the school year. The students or the clients would go to a job site. We have Ascension Hospitals, Baylor Scott and White, Kalahari Resort and Conventions in Round Rock, I'm located in Austin, so these are places mostly in Austin and Williamson County. And they go there, they do a full part-time work. They get 1 hour of life skills, work skills, and all the support that they need to be able to move forward with the work life, or like to get the needed skills for work. And we have another program called Summer Earn and Learn, which is a summer program of 5 weeks of paid employment during this summer. And once applying, if you're interested in applying, these are the documents that they will ask for. They do ask for financial documents, but these are the transition services do not depend on your income. So regardless of your income, you can benefit from the transition services. So our goal is 90 days of employment, and we also have post-closure services. So if you're interested in learning more about these services, you can call this phone number, you can check this website, you can check it at a VR office near you. This is also this website. I can also send it to you so you can share it with them. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can also call me or send me an email, and that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Farah. And I do just want to clarify for anyone that might be watching, Farah was focused on the transition aspect of the vocational rehabilitation services, but you can receive vocational rehabilitation services at any point in your career. So no worries if you're kind of past that transition age range. But we just wanted to provide some context, and sort of getting into the workforce can be really challenging for folks. But not to worry, at any time throughout your career that you need support.
Yes, we do have adult services. So if you're above 22, you can definitely still receive services.
Awesome. Well,
And
thank you so
Dana,
much.
VR services that Farah's referencing, to your point, can be transition ages 14 to 22, or it can be, as you just mentioned, adult, which is after that, but it can include a variety of things. One of the programs we'll talk about in a little bit is a program that we have in disability rights that kind of walks alongside vocational rehabilitation services and folks with disabilities. So Goodwill is a great operation and has some great potential for clients out there and customers. So it's good to be a part of the group here. And I'm not next, but I just wanted to weigh in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we appreciate you, JT. So we're gonna go to Judy Blake first. She's gonna tell us a little bit about Family to Family Network.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you so much. And many thanks to Dana and Autism Society of Texas for having me today. My name is Judy Blake, and I am a program coordinator for Family to Family Network. I just entered our website in the chat box for everyone. Let me go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Can y'all see that? Okay. So we are located in Houston, Texas. We have been around for over 30 years. We provide training, though, for families throughout the state of Texas. So you'll see the IEP monthly training. If you want to click on that when you go to our website, we would love to have you register and apply for our free online training classes that are in both English and Spanish. We cover a variety of topics relevant to our families. What I'm going to be talking about today is the importance of working and the ability to still collect SSI, which stands for Supplemental Security Income. So I'm just briefly going to go over that, yes, your loved one can work and still collect SSI. It is really, really important that people with disabilities, that we have expectations for them, and we have high expectations, because as either guardians or caregivers or family members or friends, people with disabilities can work. As my previous presenters mentioned, they just might need some accommodations, and that's all okay. To give you a little bit about myself, I'm the single parent of an amazing 29-year-old young man. and he has been working for over 2 years. And sometimes parents have to get creative, and I had to get creative. I had heard about a wonderful restaurant in Houston called Steak 48, and someone told me that they were very kind toward hiring people with disabilities. So she gave me I think he was either the CEO or the CFO of the company, called him up on his cell phone. I thought, what have I got to lose? Called him up and I said, I have an amazing, dedicated, loyal, hardworking employee for you. How can I get him an interview? And he was so thrilled that I called. We interviewed with the chef and they hired him right on the spot. And he's now been there and celebrated his 2-year anniversary. So he works part-time and it's been great. He's also had job support. He has an exceptional job coach who's been with us since the beginning. And people with disabilities might need job coaches. And I think that's great. I think that helps from the employer standpoint. And I think it also helps for the employee as well. There's always that person that they can go to. It's important to have natural supports on the job, and we have those as well. But that job coach just kind of gets it started, and then the mentor or supervisor can take over from there. So as far as SSI and applying for supplemental security income, we have on our website, if you go to the Getting Started and then the Extra Assistance, you'll see that you can, hold on, it's thinking. Of course, this happens right as I'm presenting. There we go. So we have what we call the SSI framework course. For anybody who might have difficulty or be unsure about applying for SSI, please know that we have a course. It walks you through step by step exactly what to do and how to complete the application. If you want more assistance, we have those opportunities as well. But generally, people have found that helping to complete the application and the guidelines that we provide has been very, very helpful for families. Please know that when you do apply for SSI, that it's very important that you report those wages. You can do that through the app that we can explain to you, or your employer might even know. You can also contact the 800 number for the Social Security, but it's very, very important that wages are reported. And the reason for that is, and it's done generally within the first 5 days of the month, because what your loved one receives in wages, it will be offset by the Social Security amount that you receive each month. So it's going to fluctuate. My son gets paid every other week, and I report the wages the first of each month. The following month or two, because it takes time for Social Security to catch up, his Social Security amount will fluctuate. Please know that it's important to apply for supplemental security once your loved one turns 18. And I know that JT will explain more about that. You can appeal if you need to, if you are denied the first time. And if there's anything that we can help you with at Family to Family Network, we're happy to guide you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Judy. Yeah, so now I can hand it over to you, JT. So I know you work with Disability Rights Texas, but you also have a lot of experience with, various issues related to employment. So yeah, happy to learn.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dana, and thank you, everybody. The Autism Society of Texas is one of my favorite organizations. About 5 years ago, I knew nothing about this agency, and we were asked to do a presentation to the leadership team for Autism Society of Texas. And out of out of that discussion came, within about 3 months, 46 referrals from individuals with autism, exactly over to Disability Rights Texas, specifically in our client assistance program. And I'm going to share a screen here real quick and kind of start talking a little bit about that. But a lot of resources we have on our website. So this will be but an introduction. So let me know if you can see my screen. It should say employment and voc rehabilitation services. Is that something we can agree on?
Yep, we can see it.
Excellent. So employment and voc rehab services, a lot of what I'm going to talk about, everyone, is going to be in conjunction with what's already been presented. Vocational rehabilitation services, as Farah mentioned earlier, there are a lot of expansive services that can be offered through that program. It is offered through the Texas Workforce Commission Vocational Rehabilitation Services Division. We have opportunities on our website to help you with that, and a program that is specific to that is something called our Client Assistance Program, which I am one of the supervisors for. The Client Assistance Program helps individuals either who are wanting to be referred to vocational rehabilitation services and have no idea how to get there. We can help do that. We also have the capacity to, if you do access vocational rehabilitation services and you, for some reason, whatever that might be, have come to an impasse or come to some disagreement with your vocational rehabilitation counselor, this particular program here at the Disability Rights Texas assigns an advocate to you who will walk alongside you through that impasse, through the vocational rehabilitation services process, in hopes to break down the barrier that you might have with your vocational rehabilitation counselor. And we just love helping people access vocational rehab services. We also have, in conjunction with what Judy just mentioned in her program, we have something called the PADS program, which is Protection and Advocacy for Beneficiaries of Social Security. She mentioned how important it was to notify Social Security, if you are a beneficiary, to notify Social Security of your income, of any wages, because there is something called an overpayment. And at times, if you're working and you don't provide information to Social Security, it can cause a little bit of a hubbub called the overpayment, and you'll get a letter from Social Security telling you about it and asking how you would like to repay it. For people who are beneficiaries of Social Security, either Social Security Disability, SSDI, or SSI, if you are working, want to work, plan to work, desire to work, our PADS program, PABSS, can assist you. And again, I'll link this in our chat once I'm done. But we have a few programs that are specific to what we do here. Another part of issues or concerns or things that you might require help with is asking for accommodations. Heather mentioned this process earlier. Our team also helps individuals ask for an accommodation at work. We have some resources on our website that kind of provides a template for you. If you want to know what kind of accommodations are out there, we can help you with that. We can also help you, if you need to, request those of your employer, request an accommodation, even though we find that it is better if you as an employee or potential employee submit that information yourself in a self-advocacy, from a self-advocacy point of view. And even if you require assistance, we can do that. We call it ghostwriting. We can ghostwrite an accommodation request for you, and then you submit it. We can just do a lot of things, but most of what we can do through this program is talk you through the accommodation you might need, how the essential functions of your job equate to what you can and cannot do in relation to your disability or any condition that might affect you. So a lot of the things I'll be talking about that I am talking about are things that you're going to probably want more information about. And once I enter that into the chat box, feel free to access our website and dig around. There are just a myriad of resources, one of which will be this page here. What are some examples of workplace accommodations? You might need a little more time away from work if there has been something that has occurred in your life, perhaps medication regulation, something that has changed. You might need a reasonable period of leave to step back for a minute to take care of yourself. You can ask for a change of work schedule or a modified work schedule, opportunity to telework or work remotely. Just a myriad of things that can be asked for, but always to make sure they apply to you and the job and the employer needs, because the bottom line is you want a job, the employer needs to have get the job done, whether with or without accommodation. So it's really important during the time when you're looking for a job, look for one where you meet all the essential functions or most of them with or without an accommodation. If you need an accommodation, we can help you figure that out no matter where you are in the process. Part of our services within this umbrella of employment also works with and through employment discrimination. So we can help identify whether you truly are being discriminated at work, and you would call us and tell us what's going on and how you're feeling about it, and then we would help guide you as to if that's something we consider to have merit. And if that is the case, we walk you through the EEOC complaint process and just a myriad of things associated with life as an employee. So what I'm going to put this all out there. This is a lot of information, a lot of data dump, as we would say, but it is well worthy to look at all of our websites and kind of see how you might fit into that. And if there are questions out there from our panel or anything you want to speak further on, we can definitely take this time to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for sharing all of those resources. I know for myself, when I think of Disability Rights Texas, I think of, more the employment discrimination side of things, but it's great to know the breadth of the support that you're able to offer folks. We appreciate you. There have been a couple questions that have come in from folks watching. The first one is, how do you get a job coach? And I know we touched on that briefly. If you go through, Texas Workforce Commission or another organization that offers vocational rehabilitation services, often a job coach will be a part of that, and it's just integrated into that larger service. But I guess, I don't know if anybody has thoughts or wants to speak to maybe, if someone isn't, going through the vocational rehabilitation process, where would you start to look for a job coach to work with?
If I may go, so the first thing is enroll in TWC and Texas Workforce Commission. So just call them if you are not enrolled in a school. Call them if you are enrolled in a school. Reach out to your transition coordinator, like to your SPED teacher. They might be able to connect you with the counselor right away. Once you have a case, once you establish a case with them, you would right away they would assign you a counselor. The counselor would work on providing the services that you need. So if you need a job coach, you can just mention that you need a job coach and the council will work on that with you. If you're looking for a specific job, I also checked a question about I'm looking for a job, how I can find it. If you're looking for a specific job, the counselor can also help you with that. So the goal or the purpose of having a counselor just helping you find what you need and supporting you with finding what you need. So yeah, just reach out to your counselor, enroll in TWC. The process is a bit lengthy, so it takes a bit of time, but stick to it, enroll, you can start receiving services, and there are so many services out there for you that can support you.
Awesome. Thank you, Farah. And I'm just going to share my screen briefly just to make sure folks are aware of a resource that we offer at the Autism Society of Texas. We do have a resource guide on our website. So just from the website, if you go to the Find Support tab and then go to Resource Guide, and as of right now, we've got over 1,000 entries, but here on the left-hand side, under select one or more resources, we do have employment services as one of the categories. So you can just check that. And then it's going to show you, all the resources that we're aware of that offer employment services. And then you could further, service area is just like where you live. So, for example, if you were in Austin or San Antonio, you could filter, only by resources that serve that area. But for example, one of the questions that came in was like, how do you find a job if you're autistic? I know Spectrums, is one example of a job board that's like specific to autistic people. And then these are just, a variety of other organizations that offer employment services. So that's also just like a good place to start anytime somebody's trying to locate some resources. And Farah, I think you had your hand up as well.
Yes, and just to clarify, TWC does not provide the services directly. They do that through providers. So in each area, there are different providers that provide these services. So you can even choose the provider you want to work with. So Goodwill, for example, is one of the providers. There are many other providers out there. You can choose the provider that you're most comfortable working with.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying. And then I don't know if anybody else has any tips of, just how to identify companies that hire autistic people. I know that, the Autism Society was working previously, to kind of identify autism-friendly businesses. The ARC is another big disability organization, and they have an ARC at Work program, where they're working to educate different employers and organizations, about disability issues. So I think, again, just kind of looking, for evidence that employers have educated themselves, or there are companies that specifically have like neurodiversity hiring initiatives, like I know Dell, for example, or Non-Prile. So that could be a place as well. But I see Judy has some thoughts.
Yeah, so the other questions that I think that the people brought up were great questions. And, Heather can, share her thoughts on this as well. I think that self-identifying is really a very personal choice. I think that it depends on the level of need that someone might need as far as accommodations go in the workplace and your comfort level. And that's not something I think that's like a cookie cutter answer. I think it depends on the industry. I think it depends on the person. I think it depends on the company. I think it depends on your individual manager. In our case, my son did self-identify because the job coach was there during the interview. It was very apparent. I called one of the heads of the organization. So there was no issue. And my son was perfectly comfortable with that. But I think that for somebody who maybe is doing something that is more skilled, more high level, maybe you don't want to self-identify just yet. Maybe you want to wait until you've been there several months and then possibly say something. I know some adults that I've worked with that have done that as well. Autism is everywhere. And yes, there are certainly companies, engineering, computers, things like that, yes, there probably are more people on the autism spectrum at these companies. Accounting is filled with people on the autism spectrum. But as we all know on this call, it's a spectrum disorder. Where does the person fall within the spectrum, and what kind of support do they need in the workplace. So I think that any company has the potential to hire someone with autism. We just need to, as a society, come together and explain why hiring with people with disabilities is so important.
No, that's fantastic. I think also as you indicated, every job is different. Every person with autism or without autism is different, and
Absolutely.
how that job relates to that person. One of the perks or the positives of a vocational rehabilitation services application and program is that they can help you identify what individuals, employers, potential resources are out there for you, because a lot of the skill sets that you may bring to the table, if you're on the spectrum or have autism, your technical and technological skills are tremendous. But
Absolutely.
you might be missing personal and social adjustment type skills and how to fit into a social environment, or how to break through those social barriers and interact in an employee oriented call center, let's say. They're just where a lot of things are just flying about simultaneously along with a lot of people. So supports in that capacity, sometimes you have to, Voc Rehab has something called a situational work environment assessment, that if you go in there and at your primary disability, or you have a disability on the spectrum of being on the spectrum, that's something that can be asked for. It can be requested of you to participate in, and that really just gets you out into the workplace, and you assess how you're fitting in, and they're assessing how they see it from the outside. And it's a really good two-way interactive approach to identify whether a particular type of employment is good for you or not. But if you're already there and you're seeking employment, the key is going to be the essential functions of the job. Is it a job that you really want? Does it bring you the income that you want? Does it allow you to use the skill sets that you want to utilize in a workplace? It's important to know all those things going in, or at least figure it out as you're applying. There are a lot of things that I emphasize the vocational rehabilitation program so highly because they can do a lot of stuff. And if you need a little bit of help or a lot of help, they've got resources to help do that.
Awesome. I know you had your hand up, Heather. I don't know if you're
yeah. No, I mean, JT and Judy both summed up very well what I was going to say, but from an employer perspective, I would just say that everything they stated is absolutely true. And, there's also a resource inside the company called Human Resources. And so if you are inside the company already and you're looking for an accommodation and you're not sure if you have that safe space with your manager established just yet and you want to run it by someone else first, I would say Human Resources is a great place to begin. The other role that I play inside my company is I'm the executive sponsor for our Thrive ERG, and that employee resource group is dedicated to employees with disabilities and disability inclusion inside our company. So if your company has an employee resource group, that's another great place to start and maybe get some peer feedback about your situation and what you think a proper accommodation might be. For example, right now we're going back to the office and a lot of people are requesting an accommodation to be able to remain virtual. Those accommodations inside our company are requiring, medical documentation. So as Judy mentioned, rightfully so, it may depend. There might be some things like I need noise canceling earbuds because I just can't concentrate in our open space office. Probably doesn't require a self-ID, but asking for something that might be an exception to the standards for all employees, that might. But again, use your HR partners, use your employee resource group if your company has one. I'm happy to support you as well if you want to reach out via this panel to get some thoughts. I know all of the panelists would be willing to support as well. So
yeah,
that's a fantastic point, the HR side, Heather. I did put a link in for how to ask for an accommodation and some things to go with it. We talked briefly about it, but we have a template of what a letter might look like. And often employers will have a process, so you'll need to know and identify that process as well. But that's great input.
Yeah, and it looks like Judy shared another great resource, which I always recommend. It's called Ask Jan, the Job Accommodation Network,
Absolutely.
and they provide a lot of really great education about, accommodations and like, you could even, I think, look by conditions. I mean, I think you could search for autism and it would kind of, because sometimes I know it can be hard to be like, what would I even ask for? So I feel like that's a great resource for just kind of giving you, ideas to brainstorm of things that, maybe you could ask for that might be helpful. And then just Heather was talking about remote work. So I just, we mentioned it briefly, but people who are maybe not familiar, the EEOC is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And that's a good resource to know about. And I do know they have like guidelines, related to things like, remote work as a reasonable accommodation and things like that. And so, I mean, I think especially, maybe if you feel like you have an employer that's, not as supportive, I think sometimes, having those resources of like, well, here's what the EEOC, says about remote work and things like that can just kind of give you, sort of extra ammunition to get your employer to do the right thing. But I know, I think I saw Farah and Judy kind of had a hand up, so I don't know if—
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, we all know that oftentimes somebody with autism has other co-occurring challenges. It could be anxiety, social anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder. And I think it's important to realize that volunteering sometimes can be a great way to get your feet wet in a particular organization. Not every organization takes volunteers, but to those industries that do, maybe volunteering, get your feet wet, see if it's something that you feel is a good fit for you. Because if it is, that could be a great segue into then being hired by that company, or to let you know, this isn't what I thought it was. So I did want to stress the importance of volunteering. What we don't want is people graduating from high school to the living room couch. That is what we don't want. So they can be volunteering. If employment is too scary for some people, at least look into that option. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. Farah, what did—
Yes. To add, just to add to what was just said, a lot of the programs that TWC Texas Workforce Commission has, they're focused on minimizing these barriers that, for example, a lot of individuals with autism could face. I can give you like an amazing success story. I'm always proud of this story because I was part of the team working on Project Search at a certain location that we had, and we had one individual who started with us, very minimal communication, did not like being there. Was a bit passive when we worked with him, did not like being around other individuals that were also part of the program. And as we worked with this individual, we every location has a team of professionals working with them, and we all have the needed skills to be able to provide every individual with the needed help that they need. And throughout, it's a 9-month program. So on month 7, we were trying to find another rotation, because it works on the basis of rotations, different internships to gain more skills. And when we came to this person and asked them, where do you want to work? He said, I want to work at the retail department. So I want to work with people. I want to increase my communication skills. I want to improve my communication skills. So a lot of the services out there, a lot of the help that is provided out there is to make sure that these barriers that a lot of individuals could face are minimized. We can overcome these barriers step by step. We can work together on overcoming these barriers or minimizing them. So a lot of success stories out there, and a lot of help that is provided, a lot of support that is provided. So just reach out to TWC, reach out to your counselor, ask about the programs out there. There are many resources in the community, whether TWC, whether other organizations. Just ask, and you're gonna find the help that you need.
I know we're running low on time, Farah. That was awesome. For parents out there, just as a reminder, vocational rehab transition services begin at the age of 14. So don't think graduation has to happen, right? There are a lot of years, from the end of middle school onward, this program that voc rehab can really be a part of your world, and it sets a great foundation if you get in early like that.
Yes, at the
please,
age of 14, I'm sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Farah. My apologies.
At the age of 14, you can get a job during the summer and get paid. So you don't have to
Yeah.
delay it. You can start making money at 14.
And look into your school district's post-high school program. It's an art committee decision, but maybe more academics can be worked on, employment skills, social
Absolutely.
skills. So look into those post-high school programs. I can't tell you the number of families that call, the child has graduated, and when I ask, well, what was the plan when they graduated? There's really no answer. There's supposed to be a plan,
That's right.
and it's supposed to be support, employment, further education, and independent living skills. That's what's
That's right.
supposed to be worked on. So make sure you ask your schools about that. But post high school programs are great. And Farah, I want you to know that my son was one of the first Project Search graduates in the Houston area. And he did end up getting a job that he held for 3 years as a result of the post high school
I
program.
love that. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do just want to touch on, one aspect of one of the questions that we got as well, where it said, do I have to share my diagnosis to get accommodations? And so I just have a couple of thoughts about that. The first is, at least to my understanding, you don't actually have to share what your diagnosis is to get accommodations from work, just that you have a disability that would be covered by the ADA. I know some people don't consider autism to be a disability, but in order to access reasonable accommodations at work, you would have to go through the disability framework. And then, if I think the language is something about, whether it's, a parent or not. So your employer's allowed to sort of ask for additional information, or they might ask for like a letter from a healthcare provider. But at least to my knowledge, I don't know that you would have to specifically say, that I'm autistic. You would just be saying what accommodations you need and that you do have a covered disability. And then some people do go through like an informal process, if you feel like, especially you have like a really supportive manager, and you're hesitant about kind of officially going through HR, you could kind of test the waters that way, and maybe things like, noise canceling headphones or, more flexible break schedules, might kind of be able to be negotiated informally. But you do just have less protections, or like if you get assigned to a new team or that manager goes to a new job, then you might kind of be stuck. So that's just something to consider, but I did want to touch briefly on that. And then we did have one more question that just in the last couple of minutes we have left that I wanted to address, where people are asking about, job opportunities for people with a higher level of support needs. Or I do just want to acknowledge, I know someone shared, that you can, not necessarily get, a lot of interviews, even going through vocational rehab. So we know these services are not a panacea. I think especially sort of we're still kind of learning how the COVID pandemic has affected the job market. The job market is extremely challenging right now for anyone. So I just want to name that. And, of course, there's like no guarantees, for any individual, but we are here, at the Autism Society. You can always call us or email support@texasautismsociety.org, and we'll always try to help, however we can. But we just wanted to educate people about what resources are available, to try to help, bridge those gaps. But just do any people kind of have thoughts about, employment for people that may, need that higher level of support?
So I can tell you there's an agency in the Houston area, and I don't know if he places around the state, but he actually works with adults who have college degrees at the Baker Hughes, the oil and gas. So if somebody wants to reach out to me, I'll put my email again. I'd be happy to introduce you to him.
Thank you.
Dana, going back to the just vocational rehab, even employment services providers, to your point, there are not a lot out there anymore. I know Farah and her team at Goodwill are one of the many that are out there, but many do not have there's an autism credential for employment services providers that is offered up to the University of North Texas for employment services providers who do want to work with and have some semblance of a desire to succeed with someone with autism. So there are those credentials out there. I don't know. I know there are issues currently, to your point, with the employment services providers having a lot of vendors out there. So there are some limitations, and yes, COVID and the pandemic played a big role in a lot of that. But I think as time moves on, that may be getting better. I'm hopeful, but also, we want speculatively, we would like for it to happen, but we just don't have a time frame or any plan that I see in place. But it is there, and I think if you do choose to, if you're already in voc rehab and you've been disappointed, I'd say keep trying. There's no perfect system. And if you get services or desire services, keep plugging away. And if you have issue with that, give us a call and see if we can't partner up with you. It even takes us time too, because we have to work through the same process as you're working with voc rehab. But I think the end result and the possibility of what can happen are pretty significant. So I just encourage folks to just keep plugging away.
If I may add, most of my work is with parents, and what I always say to parents is stay patient. You need to have patience, you need to follow up, you need to keep going, and that's when you can actually receive services. So follow up always with TWC, follow up with your counselor to receive your services.
And just another resource that I think people should be aware of. If you're not, it's called a LIDA, the Local Intellectual and Developmental Disability Authority, and there's one for every county in Texas, and that can be another good place to go to get support, around a variety of different services, and autism does count as a developmental disability. So I mean, I think kind of especially, with people with a higher level of support needs, I think so much of this is, very individual and kind of looking at, what are those supports that are needed, what are the strengths or interests that the person has, related to employment. But, as much as you can find support, whether that's speech therapy, occupational therapy, just thinking of, how could maybe kind of accessing, those kinds of services also then support the employment process. And the Texas Workforce Commission also has programs I'm seeing in the chat specifically for individuals that have a level 3 autism diagnosis. So that could be something to look into as well. And, we know this is like a huge topic, but hopefully, this at least gives people kind of some guidance or ideas of sort of where to go or what your next steps might look like. But as we're kind of coming up on the end of the hour, thank you to all the panelists for sharing your time and expertise. Does anyone have any final thoughts, anything left that you would want to share for now?
We appreciate the time, and I think let's keep the conversation going. Looking forward.
Yes, definitely. And please do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any other questions.
I would end with research the company, use your network, use your resources, don't give up. We're all here to support you. So thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, everybody. And like I said, you can always reach out to the Autism Society anytime you need support, getting access to resources if you're struggling with employment issues, support at texasautismsociety.org, or our phone number is on our website if that is more accessible for you. So, yeah. Well, thank you everyone for coming, and we'll end it there.